very
Yeah.
much. I believe God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-benevolent, omnibenevolent, omnipowerful, omni-knowing.
Tell me how you reached that conclusion. I'm interested. Satan was in the garden. If he's all powerful, he could have stopped Satan from being in the garden. And if he was all benevolent, he wouldn't have allowed sin.
Wait, hold up. Let me role play. You do the 5 minutes, and I'll take it from your point of view.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to come to you with God is all-knowing, powerful, and benevolent. You flip the hourglass and be like, hey, go for it. You ready? No, not yet. You guys, you got to still introduce yourself. You ready? What's up? I'm Tyrone. It's nice to meet you.
I'm Aaron.
Hey, all right. You want me to explain something that I believe? Very
Yeah.
much? I believe God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-benevolent, omnibenevolent, omnipowerful, omni-knowing.
Tell me how you reached that conclusion. I'm interested.
So I got it from the Bible. The
Okay.
Bible says it's true, and I tend to believe whatever the Bible tells me. I have a Holy Spirit that speaks to me, and the things that he told me make sense. So, like, you have a God that knows everything, and I think that's true because, there's a lot of people that commune with God. We have, like, things like our science. We have things like our architecture, beauty in the world. All this stuff is things that we're cracking into, but clearly there's an order to it, and God was the designer for all of that stuff. Then you also have, like, powerful. Who can make the universe? Only God could. And then you have benevolence, like the good that happens to me in my life, like when I pray and good things happen to me, I know that's happening to me because of a benevolent God.
So, I want to attack this from the powerful.
Okay.
So, if there are things that don't exist in the universe, would that be God not having the power to make them exist?
I don't understand. If there are things that don't exist, is that God choosing to not make it exist?
Is that God choosing not to make it exist?
I guess so, yeah. Because nothing can exist if God doesn't want it to exist.
So, if it doesn't exist, does God know about it?
If it doesn't exist, then God should know. Yeah, he has a plan. He knows everything that was going to exist and everything that was not going to exist before it even existed or would never exist. That's God's plan.
Okay. So, if he knows about it, but it doesn't exist, then does he have the power to make it exist?
Yes, he has all power.
How does he know he can make it exist?
How does he know he can make it? Well, I mean, only God knows. So
But if he...
you go to like first chapter Jeremiah, verse
If he knows that he
16,
can...
13 says, everything I need to make it say because I read the Bible, blah, blah, blah. There you go. There's my excuse.
If he knows...
Insert convenient Bible quote.
If he know... How does he know that he can make it exist?
How does he know something? I don't know how God knows things. I'm so lower level that I can never possibly comprehend how God comes to terms on things. So the best thing that I can do is take it on faith that he does. He gave me his book, which was inspired by him through people. And the main things that he says is just trust in him and that he's all-knowing, all-powerful, and all good. That's good enough.
So if God knows that all things exist and he's all powerful, did he create all things?
He created everything, yes.
Did he create disease?
Yes. He also created disease.
Is disease benevolence? Is it benevolence to cause people to suffer?
I understand what you're saying because, you look at some people suffering with diseases, but there's sometimes like good disease too. Like if nobody died of disease, again, there wouldn't be enough room for people. And you got to think about why are people dying with disease? It's so they can go back to God. Like this world that we're in, it's just a test.
Does a disease necessarily have to exist for people to die like that? If God's all powerful, couldn't he just create death in a way that people died without suffering?
I think there's something about suffering that helps people get inspired. And if someone's going through like a really arduous life and suffering, that makes the life that other people have they can offer things to other people with their perspective that's really rewarding. And again, their reward isn't in heaven or in this life, it's in heaven. So like if you, like in Jesus says, Mark, chapter 21, X 40, X 49, 47, 48.1, he says, whoever suffers is going to inherit the earth. And so that's why people suffer in the world, and that's how we see it. But
would I be benevolent if I caused people to suffer so that they could give a triumphant story to people?
You wouldn't, but God is.
Why doesn't that make God benevolent but not me?
I think it's the all-powerful aspect to it. Like, he's so powerful that he can do these things and still be powerful.
So given enough power, me doing that would make me benevolent?
I think there's an aspect to it, and then also like the all-knowingness as well.
So
like those two things definitely.
If I knew everything and I was all-powerful, me doing that would be benevolent.
And if you were God, which you aren't, but if you were, I could see...
So God gets a pass because he's God? Why would you give God a pass for doing something like that, but not giving, maybe, let's say, Satan a pass for doing something?
Satan a pass?
Yeah,
That's a really weird jump.
I mean, if Satan was all-knowing, all-powerful...
But he's not knowing, all-powerful.
Because he's not God?
He's not God.
So what if we gave Satan the abilities of being all-knowing and all-powerful?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And then he created suffering in the world. Would that be benevolent? Because that would be no opposite of what God is doing. But now Satan is doing it. So would that make Satan God?
I've never been asked that question before. I think that's a good question. I think it would probably dogmatically close up a lot of people, but I think that's a pretty good question, honestly.
My only question, the question just stems...
If Satan was as powerful as God,
how much...
Would suffering still be a bad thing or a good thing?
What level of knowing things and having power turns something being evil into something being benevolent? Because if it's evil for me to cause you to suffer, then what level of giving me power and knowledge to a point causes that suffering to be?
I'm going to give you an out that Christians will or someone who's very upscale theist will probably give you. It's not God's plan to cause us to suffer and give us disease. That was man's issue when he went against God's word and caused the fall to happen. God's plan was originally for us to exist happily for eternity as mortals in the Garden of Eden. But because man went against his word, that corrupted man. And now we have to go through this system of sin and overcoming our sin in order to come to better terms with God.
My question then would be, God knew that by allowing that to happen, benevolence would...
I don't think he knew it to happen. And again, I can't speak for God, but like if you randomly push a bunch of numbers on a calculator...
Wait a minute.
What's up? I can't speak what God knows and what I know.
We don't have to speak about what God knows and doesn't know. He knows everything.
No, but like again, if I flip 1,000 coins at the same time, I know some are gonna land heads, some are gonna land tails. I can even give you the odds and statistics. But as me with my little brain, I can only tell you this is as much as I know as what the options could be. And I think parallel to that, with a much bigger mind, maybe that's something that God was coming to when he was like thinking about like how things could be in this world.
Why would God have to think about how things could be? He knows how they are. He's all-knowing. He knows everything. Everything from this position to the future and this position backwards, he knows. So why would he not know that something was going to enter the world that would cause benevolence to disappear? And if he did know about that, and he had the power to stop it, he would be willingly allowing suffering to enter the world, which I don't know if that could be defined as benevolent.
I'm going to say that God, while he knew what was going to happen in the Garden of Eden, had a much bigger plan and had time, such that the suffering that we're experiencing in this world is nothing compared to the grace that we'll have when we go to him when we die.
So suffering is okay to cause if you end up in a better outcome after the suffering?
I think you are underestimating how great it's going to be in heaven.
So the means justify the ends?
I think in this case, with God's knowledge and power and benevolence, yes.
So let's go back to the example. If I had a plan to create the perfect utopia.
Hey, buddy. Is that a Yorkshire Terrier?
Actually, it's a mix of Yorkie and it's called Silky Terrier.
I was saying he's so big.
Yeah, he is mixed with Australian Kennel Dog.
Okay.
It's like a breed. It's a thing.
Very cool.
Okay, so if I had a plan for how I wanted things to be at the end of the world, and all I really needed to do was, enslave everybody into being beaten every day so that they would fit that end that I needed.
Okay.
Would that be a benevolent thing for me to do, knowing that my end is going to be a perfect world? Okay, so why is it okay for God to do but not me to do?
Because you're not God.
I think you're giving God a pass because
He's God?
He's God.
If you want to say it that way, that's fine with me.
But I don't think that changes the definition of benevolence.
I think if you're God, you can choose to be whatever you want. You have all the power to do that.
So how do you know the benevolence isn't a lie?
There, you're asking good questions now. Now you're digging deeper in.
Yeah.
So how do you know the benevolence is a lie?
Because if I tell you I'm all knowing and all powerful, and this is what I say benevolence
now you're getting the good
that
questions.
could be a lie. I could be lying to you and telling you that is benevolence.
I know it because in my life I've had good things happen to me. That's the method that I'm using to assess that God is good. Because when I pray for something good to happen in my life, something good happens to my life.
Do you think there's examples of people praying for something good to happen and bad things happen?
You're asking great questions now, man. You see, okay. I think different people can pray for different things, and I think maybe people who don't pray as strongly as I do maybe don't get the results as fast. And I can't pray for something that's against God's plan. But if I still pray for 100 good things and 80 good things happen to me, I think that's enough of a sign for me that God exists and He's good.
Okay, I want to give you a story that's from the Bible, and we'll work through the benevolence problem. Oh,
you're going back again then. All right, go for it.
Well, no, because this is part of their belief.
Okay.
You're familiar with the story of Lot?
I'm familiar with the story of Lot, yes.
Okay. The story of Lot came about because God and the devil entered into a sort of a bet of sorts that no matter what terrible things happened to Lot would never turn away from God.
Are you talking about Job?
Job. Sorry, Job.
It's okay. We're just gonna course correct.
Yeah, Job. I don't know. Too many names in the Bible. Job. The story of Job. Sorry. So Job
I can tell you right now, if you're saying this to a Christian, you're already playing his game.
Oh yeah, I know. Because I have to admit that this story is at least somewhat existent.
Yeah, not only that, but who cares what the story says? Because there's going to be 40 other stories that can segue into, and they'll say well, here's where you're misinterpreting this story that I know way more because they probably study it a lot more, or they have a dreamified impression of it. The questions where you're asking me, why do I know this? How do you know it's true? What method are you using? How reliable is that method? Those
are the questions?
Here's the conclusion. Here's the person. When you talk about the Bible and the stories, you're talking about a conclusion, a personally identified story. When you start targeting the Christian, why do you think that? Aren't you giving them a pass? Those questions are targeting the person. But when you target the method, there's no ego there. And you can really dissect that. And once you show that the method is unreliable, they can't just walk away and pretend that it is. They've now lost the connection they had between the conclusion and the person that they were. That falls everything apart.
That is a weird thing because, I worked through a lot on that with you that I hadn't really thought about before because, it is true that if God is all-knowing and all-powerful, then we have to talk about benevolence.
Yeah.
Because
maybe we don't. You want to try role-playing the other way around and seeing how that would work?
Well, let me work through this idea and then we can try that, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so where I was going with that is...
Man, it's a nice day out, finally.
We have to talk about... I really think we have to discuss, do we give God a pass because He is God?
I know you're asking that question because it's important to you, but that you are hitting the person and you're hitting the conclusion. I think a better question would be, how did you come to that conclusion? And did you use a reliable way to come to that conclusion? How reliable is that method?
So a good question would be like, how do we know that God doing this is? How do we know that's benevolent?
How do you know that's true?
How do you know that's? How do you know that is him being, or how do you know that is benevolent?
How do you know that's actually the case?
Yeah.
No. How did you determine? What method did you use to determine
that was benevolence?
That not necessarily benevolence, but that even is a case. You should not attack a very specific thing, because in Christianity there's a network of very specific things. It's like a web. What you need to do is just wholesale the whole thing and just say, okay, well, here's all your beliefs.
Well, I'm just trying
to get to those?
Come to an understanding of how this part of it, how the benevolence part, how they're working through that being benevolent. Because you have have a definitive definition of what benevolence is.
Yeah, this is a very classical apologetic. The problem of evil is what it's called. Yeah. And there's a lot of counter or apologists that have means of constantly skirting the issue. And I tell you, you can sit here and keep asking me questions about this, and I can find every other avenue to avoid answering it definitively.
Yeah.
I can go to God, I can go to past, but you would never get me to conclude that God doesn't exist following this method. If you attack the epistemology, like, why do I even believe any of this? Why do I even believe any of this? Now we've thrown the conclusion out the window, we've thrown the person out the window, and now we're just looking at the method. And if I don't have a method to stand on, I have no way of really connecting those two together.
Okay, so a good question, I guess, would be, why do you believe God is benevolent?
No, good question would be, why do you believe God exists?
Okay, we'll start with that. Why?
Do you want to roleplay that?
I don't think I do a very good job playing theist.
I'm not. You don't even have to do a good job. I just want to show some good answers or good questions.
I want good questions, because the questions are what I'm probably.
So having. Even do a shitty job. I don't give a shit.
Okay. We'll do that. I'm going to try my best. I'll roleplay as the theist.
All right. So, hey, I'm Ty. Nice to meet you,
Aaron.
Cool. Come over here often.
No.
Okay.
Does this look like the Hyatt Place, Lexington?
No, you look like you literally just woke up, dude.
Yeah, I did. That's. Wait, whoa.
Okay.
I put on clothes. I almost wore basketball shorts and a t-shirt.
So normally what I do is I got a 5-minute timer, and I just ask people if there's anything that they strongly believe is true, anything that really motivates them, anything that they absolutely think is the case. What's something that you're certain about? Any of those things matter?
Am I role-playing the theist? Or
yeah, you're role-playing the theist, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, I want to turn this into an interesting situation, because I don't think theism is an interesting conversation all the time. But I would love to throw out something ridiculous.
Sure.
As a role play to both of us have to
Okay, what do you had in mind?
Something that I could come up with that's ridiculous.
Come up with something ridiculous, but the more absolute it is, the more time we can save. Like if you just say bagels, yeah, that's absurd.
No. I got one that's good. Flip it.
All right. So, do you have anything like that?
Did you already flip it?
No, I'm gonna. So my strategy is I flip it after we determine the topic.
Do I personally have anything like that?
Yeah, you, the role-playing person. Do you have anything in your mind like that?
I believe that pedophilia is good for children.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be supernatural. All right.
Oh, no, does it have to be supernatural?
Well, I mean...
I just thought come up with some definitive
we could definitely do that, but the routes that I use for something like that would probably be a lot different from other things. But if you want to do that, sure. You want to do that after we do the theist one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the theist one and we can go there.
A ridiculous position to see what questions you would ask somebody who says something
because I have different routes based on what... I had a girl come and say she wanted to be an architect, and I broke that down to
what if I sat down with you and I was like, I think black people should be slaves? Would you want to break that position?
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's like a definitive position. So
it is, but I would approach it different from a supernatural. Because supernatural is like, oh, this is easy. I know how to show that this is not a reliable method because we don't have any good reliable methods for testing the supernatural. So that's just simple.
Do we have any good reliable
lean into
methods for testing slavery of black people?
Yeah, we do, and
I think we've definitively proved that one's pretty bad.
Cultural biology, we know that pretty well. So
I think we've definitively proven that slavery is a net negative.
Yeah. So so you want to knock out theism, and if you want,
let's do. I'll roleplay the theist.
All right. So, is there anything that you strongly believe is true?
I believe that there is a God.
Okay, you want to talk about that? That's a heavy topic.
We'll hammer it out.
All right. So, which God are we talking about? If you don't mind me asking.
The Christian God.
Okay, how certain are you that this God exists? Let's say from like a scale from 0 to 100. 0, absolutely doubt. I don't believe in this God at all. 100%. Don't tell me anything else. I know this for absolutely true. There's no doubt whatsoever. I don't need any more evidence. 100%. Where are you on that scale?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But even in my unknowingness, I still choose to believe that there is a stronger case that he does exist.
Do you have a level? If you don't like the scale at all, we don't have to use it, but like...
maybe like 90%.
90%?
No? Yeah.
Whoa, okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I have some wavering thoughts, but most of the time I'm pretty firm in my, he exists.
Okay, that's still pretty high.
Yeah.
What got you to that high confidence?
I grew up in church,
Okay.
and my family, we've always had a strong belief in God, and it's done a lot for our family. Like, the Bible says that he that believes and walks with me in faith shall be rewarded here on earth as well as in heaven. And I feel like through our faith and through believing and following God, I have been rewarded.
Cool. It sounds like you had like your personal upbringing and with that family. Do you think if you were raised by a different family, maybe like a family of Hindus in India, you would probably believe in a different God?
Probably.
Okay. Then is your personal upbringing really the method that you're using to come to this confidence? Like, if you're specifically believing in the Christian God and you're open to, if you recognize that you could be believing in a different God based on your upbringing. I could have
believed in a different God, but I think that...
What's getting you to that 90%?
After my upbringing, I practiced my own religion outside of my family, and I kept practicing them based along that religion, and it still held true for me. If you
were starting in a different religion that was going to a different God, would you still continue? Would you be sitting here at this table telling me how much you believed in Vishnu?
Well...
And how you were 90% sure that
I could
Vishnu
have, but
existed?
I think based on the evidence of seeing, like, my family, if I was outside of my family and looking at my family, I would ask them, what got you to be so well off in a good position and, good strong community and good strong happiness and, and we would probably answer that our belief in God.
But specifically the Christian God or the God that you were raised...
The Christian God.
That everyone was raised to believe in?
No, the Christian God.
So if you were in India right now, raised by Indian parents who believed in Vishnu, and you go back to your parents and you had this conversation with them and you see they're living a good life and everyone's benefiting, you would still believe in the Christian God? How reliable do you think you'd do that?
I think we could work out a definitive way of showing that the Christian God's rewarded...
More?
More rewarded, yeah.
Okay. So are you only following this God, or is your belief based on the fact that you benefit from the God?
No, but it is a reward.
Okay. Then what is the method that you're using to get to a 90% confidence? You must have like a 90% reliable method. What is that method?
I read the Bible.
Okay.
I pray. And when I pray and read the Bible, things that I pray for and things that I want in my life, they come to happen, come to fruition.
If you read a different holy book and your prayers were still answered, would you believe in that holy book more? Would it raise your confidence that maybe that alternative holy book is more accurate? If you used that holy book and then prayed and your wishes or your prayers were still answered, would that raise your confidence that maybe this other holy book is more accurate?
Yes, maybe God is more forgiving of people who are born into situations they can't control and religions that they didn't choose but still choose to follow a God.
So it doesn't specifically have to be the book that you were using?
Not specifically.
So then what's still getting you to that 90%? If it's not your personal upbringing, which is based on wherever your environment is, or it's not the the book that you're reading, which could be any book, what's getting you to that 90% confidence?
I don't know. I would have to... I guess to be more confident, or as confident as I am, I'd probably have to try to follow the other religions to see if I do get the same benefit from them.
If that's the case, do you think 90% in this God right now really reflects your position?
Maybe not 90% in the Christian God. Maybe I should be 90% confident in a God.
Maybe. Or maybe slightly less than this God that you've picked so far?
Maybe.
Okay, cool. That's it. That was a good talk. Shake hands.
I think that's an honest position for... I don't know if a theist would...
In a 5-minute conversation, that's generally your goal.
I don't know if a theist would come to that conclusion.
I have videos.
Of them coming to that conclusion?
Yes.
Really?
This method is really good.